So I'm Coach Red. You can always reach me on my website, coachred1.com, and that's the number 1. I'm a certified life coach specializing in parenting. I have 2 daughters myself, and when I talk about them, I have permission to talk about them. I never tell a story that I can't talk about and that I haven't asked permission for. So I want that to be perfectly clear that I have permission to talk about all the stories that I talk about. So this journey started with both my kids. They were both challenging in their own way. My little one was challenging from day one, and she probably catapulted me into learning more about parenting and eventually becoming a parenting coach. She was very, very stubborn, very, very opinionated, even from a very young age. So she was a challenge. My older daughter, she was an easy kid, so easy. She always did what we wanted, just made life really easy for us. And I think that was like a trick, because when she went into high school, she sent a photo that she was embarrassed about after she sent it. I found out about it. She told me about it, but it was too late, because by the time she told me about that photo, it had gone through her school like wildfire. It had gone viral. She was looking for approval in all the wrong places. She was looking for attention. I was divorced from her dad. Her dad was struggling with his recovery from alcoholism. And I was a single mom trying to work, go to school, try to manage my budget, just everything. So I had family watching them a lot of the time, and I was running in and out of out of the house, leaving notes for them, messages for them, trying so hard to connect with them. But I definitely didn't do the best job, because she still was looking for this kind of approval from outside sources. So I had to learn how to build up her self-esteem and listen to her, hear her feelings, allow her to express her feelings. And even though I myself was in survival mode during that time, I was able to guide her through this process. I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned a lot. That experience alone really helps me with my clients today. I know a lot now that I didn't know then, and I empowered my daughter, and it really made a big difference. And so I really want to be able to share that with all of you. And that's where I'm coming from. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching this masterclass at this time. If you stay till the end, I will send you a bonus. You will get 20 ways to inspire intrinsic motivation in teenagers. I know, intrinsic motivation in teenagers. Sometimes that doesn't make any sense. They're opposing terms, but it can happen. And I've got a document for you with 20 ways to do this. And I'm going to send that to you if you stay till the end of this masterclass. Don't forget to pay full attention. Shut off your phone, shut off your other browsers. We're only here for an hour, and you might want to take notes. You might learn something new, and it's worth paying full attention so that you can gather all the value that I'm about to give you. I have not been a perfect mom, as I explained before, and my kids even did things behind my back. I thought I was doing all the right things. If I could tell you all the things that I did that I thought were just perfect and wonderful, that I would get mom points for, I did a lot. And yet my kids still did things behind my back. And so it really helps to have somebody in your court to help you with parenting strategies or to find resources. One thing's for sure is that I learned not to judge myself or my kids. And that's a real key. When kids do things that we don't like or things that we wouldn't necessarily be proud of, some of my clients call it, I didn't teach them to be like that. We can't judge them, because if we're in judgment of them, we can't help them. We can't build up their self-esteem, and they won't know that we love them anyway. So it's really important to know that. I've learned that along the way. I'm really excited to give you the benefit of the knowledge that I've got on social media and how it affects your kids. So let's get started. Are you ready to learn? So if you're ready to learn, post in the chat, yes. Well, I am going to start sharing. Post yes in the chat if you are ready. Let me get my share screen up. All right, let's go. We got some enthusiasm building. There we go. Sorry, I didn't have that ready like I thought I would. All right, here we go. Parenting Coach Masterclass, Social Media Boundaries and Your Teens. So if that's what you came for, then you're in the right place because we're doing it. I had a client story, and this is getting real. No names, of course. Like I said before, I don't know if all of you were here when I said this, but when I do tell these stories, if they're about my children, I have explicit permission, very clear permission from them to tell their stories. And so that's okay. My clients also tell me when it's okay to tell their stories, and I never use names. I repeat that because privacy is very important to me, and I don't want any miscommunication, and I want complete clarity and transparency about that. I don't tell stories that I'm not allowed to tell. So this first story I want to tell you is my client who had a 13-year-old daughter who started posting videos of herself smoking weed on Instagram. By the time the mother found out about it, she was livid. How could you do that? Why are you smoking weed? Why are you making it public? Every judgmental term you can imagine she did. By the time she came to me, the relationship between her and her daughter had really deteriorated. And through coaching and compassion and empathy, she learned that she actually wasn't around a lot. She was a single mom and she totally thought she was around a lot. She worked, she came home, but what she didn't realize was she was on her phone a lot. She did go out with her friends and she said, but I have to meet someone. But you know what? It's unfortunate for me to say this, but when you have kids, you have a responsibility. And I'm being compassionate when I say this, even if I have this look of like, I'm your mom. I'm not. I'm very passionate about kids needing safety and needing a place to come home to where their parents are. If both parents aren't together, that's okay. Life happens. But you can't go out looking for a partner at the expense of your children. If there's a way that you can do it together, I'm happy to guide you with that. But this young lady, this 13-year-old, was screaming, I want attention, because behaviors are messages, and we have to always heed these messages. So this was pay attention to me, and if you're not going to pay attention to me, I'm going to put something out there that's going to hurt me so it hurts you. They say, I'm taking rat poison so the rats should die, which doesn't make any sense, but that's the way teenager brains work sometimes. So through a lot of coaching and a lot of guidance, she was able to get back to empathy with her child and back to understand where her child was coming from. And thankfully, the entire situation turned around. Those videos came down. Whether they're still there because of technology or not, they are. But the daughter over time was able to understand and be more rational. That's one of the good stories. One thing I teach people all the time is scan your photos. So kids are very excited. They just got a driver's license. Make sure to black out that address. Any identifying items that are in this driver's license, make sure that's blacked out. If they're taking a photo in front of their house, make sure it's not near the number of the house, or if there's a credit card on a table behind them, have them learn how to scan their photos. Just get used to scanning photos. There's all these funny memes out there right now, or funny videos out there right now with somebody on Zoom and somebody walks by naked or in their underwear behind them just because they don't realize what's behind them, and the person who's naked doesn't realize that there's a Zoom video going on. It's the same thing. So just scan the photos. It's a good habit for kids to get into. And I recommend encouraging your kids to do this. Next, I recommend printing this. And if you're interested, send me your email or post it in the chat, and I will make sure that you get a copy of this. I can send it to you. I can send you the slide deck too. So what this is before a child or anybody sends a photo or posts a video or makes a comment online, could be a racist comment, off-color comment, before anybody does anything, I say ask 3 questions. Would you say this face-to-face to the person? Would you want your grandparents to see this? And would you be okay with this photo or video or comment being plastered all over the hallway at school? So again, I love this because it's so important that people ask themselves questions. Don't be impulsive and just click send. Do not. There's that old show, Seinfeld. And in Seinfeld, George Costanza had sent a racy photo of himself, but he had sent it to the photo developer. So back in the day, they had to develop a photo. And he was freaking out. So he was trying to break into the photo studio to get the photos out before the people showed up in the morning. Things are different now. You send click, seconds later, that photo's out there. That racist comment that you said that you didn't want everybody to hear about, it's out there. So ask yourself 3 questions before posting anything. Photos, text, anything. Would I say this to this person face to face? Would I want my grandparents to see this? And would I be okay with this plastered all over the school? 3 questions. Are you all with me still? Post yes in the chat under panelists or panelists and attendees. If you are still with me, say so far so good. Yes, excellent, excellent. This next one is social media safety. There are many, many sites out there. There is so much on the internet, and sex work has become normalized. There are more than even is on here. Sugar babies is something that comes to mind that is not on here, because sex work is being something that is totally normalized in society. Everyday people can do it. It's not the old days where the only way for sex workers to get a job is to be standing on the street corner. Now, our kids have access to sexual content online. Our kids have access to creating sexual content online. Our kids may think that posting a picture of their toes on a fetish site is harmless. It didn't have my face in it. It's harmless, and people are sending me money. Or no one will know in their family if they have an OnlyFans profile. Some of you may not know what OnlyFans is. Post in the chat if you know what OnlyFans is, yes or no. Let me see. Have any of you heard of OnlyFans? Getting a lot of yeses. I got some no's, a lot of yeses. Okay, so a lot of you are in on the secret. It's not a secret you want, trust me. OnlyFans is a site where people can post sexual content, and everyday people can have a profile, and people will pay to see different things. They are very, very, very clear on their guidelines for who can post. It is illegal for anybody under 18 to post. They have very serious structure of how to assure that everyone who's posting is over 18. In the event that your child somehow circumvents this and puts pornographic or sexually suggestive photos online, it is punishable by law. It's child pornography. Your kids don't necessarily realize how serious this is. It is. So if they manage to do something like that under 18, then it is punishable by law. And so I've posted here the social media safety guidelines for various sites. OnlyFans is just one that comes up so frequently with my clients that I wanted to highlight it. If it's part of your family values and you don't have a problem with somebody posting their toes online or somebody posting naked photos of themselves or having sex on a camera, if that is okay with you and those are your family values, then that's just fine. But for many of us, that's not the case. It really goes against our family values. And so I'm here to tell you, OnlyFans is something to be worried about because people can go and look at the sexually explicit photos and videos if they're not creating it. And it's becoming a problem. Another, for many, many families. Another site is sugar babies. Post in the chat if you've heard of sugar babies. Let's see what we're getting here. Again, mixed. Do you know about sugar babies? Okay, I'm getting mixed on that one too. I'm so glad that I've brought these things up, but Sugar Babies is a site where older men go to hang out with college students, essentially. So college students make their profile, and the sex is not necessarily a part of it, but it can be. And I've heard many girls say that you make more money if you have sex with them. A lot of the older men want companionship of a young, beautiful woman hanging on their shoulder, hanging on their arm, sorry. And if they have sex with them or they're intimate with them in any other way, they make more money and they can make thousands and thousands of dollars on a date. They will talk to them, they'll hang out with them, and a lot of college students are doing this. You can also check out some YouTube videos on that. A lot of college kids are doing that, and it's still sex work. And they don't realize it. They're like, no, I'm just hanging out with someone and he's giving me money. Well, it's in the family of sex work. So it's something to just be aware of, that our kids know about it more than we do. All right, next. Yep. Where's my Finsta? Sorry. Okay, there we go. So some of you may know this, some of you may not, but our kids have more than one profile. A private Snapchat is something that they can post and select who they want to see. So if you are their friend on Snapchat or you're connected with them on Snapchat, don't assume that you know what's going on because you follow them. They could have a whole nother life in a private Snapchat. Also, Finsta. They actually have this cute little name for it. There's one profile that they have that their mom and their grandparents can see. And then they have another profile that's a fake Instagram. So actually the Finsta is probably the one that the parents get, and the real one is the one that their friends get. So keep your eye out for stuff like that, and also keep the dialogue open with your teens. I think that's like the main key, the main theme that I have here is keep the dialogue open. Walk by them when they have their computers on. Let's just see what's going on, you know? Children's self-esteem are so fragile during adolescence, according to stopbullying.gov, which is a huge resource for cyberbullying, by the way, stopbullying.gov. Cyberbullying and gossiping online can lead to depression, anxiety, and even suicide. I'm sure many of you, there's a lot of caseworkers here tonight too. I'm sure many of you have seen very depressed teens and tweens, especially now with the lockdown that was last year, especially with this crazy year we had last year. So cyberbullying doesn't help at all, at all. I had a client who was being bullied online. The kids were making fun of the way she looked, was making fun of her body. And she was so ashamed, partially because she had low self-esteem and she believed what they said, which makes it really sad if you're a parent that you believe that your kid feels so bad about themselves that when somebody says these terrible things that they believe it. So when the parents realized what was happening, when the parents both realized what was happening, they had to build up her self-esteem. They had to empower her, give her small wins, things that she could do that would really empower her and build up her confidence, and report it. The child is happier now. She knows that her parents have her back no matter what. I think that was something that she was afraid of, that they wouldn't have her back, that, you know, oh, she does have, you know, a large body or a skinny body or whatever it was that they were making fun of. And maybe the parents believed it too, but her parents had her back and really stood up for her. If you suspect that your child is being cyberbullied, you will see changes in behavior. Know your kid. And if something's different, if their grades are starting to get worse or they're starting to change something about themselves, it'll show up in their behavior. Remember what I said at the beginning of this masterclass? Behavior are messages. Behaviors are messages. How they act are always telling us a story. So we have to be detectives sometimes because our kids aren't always very verbal about it. So we have to be there. Don't ever negatively comment on one of their posts publicly. If you see something that you feel you want them to take down or you want to talk to them about it, catch them at a good time. Catch them during dinner, you know, on a break from one of their video games or whatever it is. Catch them at a good time when they're just kind of relaxed and feeling cool, and just tell them about this post that you feel is inappropriate and discuss it with them and have them take it down. Discourage long periods of alone time in their bedroom. Have them outside more. Don't have TV. Let them eat there. Have them with their computer there and their phone. Like, have some tech-free space. The bedroom is the safest and the healthiest place to have tech-free space. And it really cuts down on opportunities to get into a lot of trouble. You want to explain the difference to them between tattling and reporting. The difference between tattling and reporting, especially for younger kids. It's important that we report at all ages, but especially for younger kids, they don't want to tattle on their friends. These are not your friends. These are bullies and they need to be stopped. And this is a way to do it by reporting it through the proper channels in their school and everywhere else. Always love and support them throughout. Look for online resources for your child and get coaching around it so that you can always build up your child and watch for signs. Because I'll tell you, it's not easy. I tell these stories as if, you know, snap, I went home and they gave me, I mean, I gave them these wonderful ideas and snap, they're suddenly having successful relationships with their children and it's perfect. No, parenting is totally this. You know, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good months and bad months. And if you've already gotten to a heightened position of craziness and anxiety in your family, then it's going to take time for that to go down, to go down, to go down. And it takes time and compassion and empathy and patience, lots and lots of patience. If your child is the bully or you suspect they are the bully because maybe they bullied before. And so you feel like there may be a second round happening now. Or they quickly shut their computer when you walk by, or they shut their windows real fast when you walk by. Because remember, I was talking about having public areas for the computer, that they should be in a public area and there should be tech-free zones. Well, if you walk by the public area and you see them click, click, click as you're walking by, question that. Like, what's that about? And if they have multiple profiles on the various platform, open the conversation. Ask them what that's about, why they have several profiles. You'd be surprised, like they may lie at first, but you'd be surprised if you keep the conversation open and they'll be honest with you at one point. Boundaries. Boundaries equal love. Kids hate boundaries and they love boundaries. I have talked a lot about things that could go wrong because it's a crazy world out there now that our kids have to grow up in. We didn't necessarily have to do that. I don't know the ages of all of you attendees and participants, but I'm 50. I'm not embarrassed to say that. And I didn't have this problem when I was a kid. So kids nowadays need some serious boundaries and some serious love and acceptance and empathy. How do we create boundaries so that they follow them? Does anybody know how to create boundaries so that they follow them, so that the kids will actually keep the boundaries? Post in the chat if you have any idea what it takes to have boundaries and the kids follow them. It begins with an A. Let's see if anybody knows. All right. Agreements. If you and your teen have agreements, they keep them. Maybe not in every moment, but they keep them because, yes, agreements and getting together and having them help to decide the rules. That's what somebody wrote. Yes, because when they're participating in it, they feel empowered and they feel like they're part of a team. They don't feel like they're just lone wolf trying to take care of himself in this household, each man for himself, none of that. So if you have an agreement with them, so these are some helpful tips for parents in creating boundaries, is that once you have an agreement with them, these things on this slide are there. A usage agreement with Wi-Fi and social media, what times they can use it, what they need to use it for, what sites they can go on, what sites they can't go on. All of that would be talked about openly before you install an electronic parenting control. Those are Bark is one of those companies where you put a monitoring app on their phone. So certain keywords concerning sex trafficking or just lack of safety or just inappropriate comments, anything, you tell Bark what it is you want them to alert you to, and then they alert you that this sentence was on your kid's phone. Go ask them about it. And then you don't search their phone. You actually get to go to them and say, hey, Bark alerted me that this happened. Can you explain to me the context in which this sentence was used? Because it could be a benign sentence like, oh, you're very young, but maybe a friend said that for a reason and not a predator. We don't know. It really opens up the conversation. And I like that about Bark. So if you're interested in a link to Bark, I can get that to you, but that's not what this is about. So I didn't prepare that necessarily. Shutting off Wi-Fi at night. That's a big one. Shutting off Wi-Fi at night. That for some people is kind of scary, but 10:30, 11 o'clock. Nothing good happens at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on Wi-Fi. They don't need to have Wi-Fi. And you can do that through your Wi-Fi carrier. So those are ways to set boundaries, and you can have agreements with your kids on how to use these various devices, or have whatever time you're going to do the cutoff. Have an agreement. Have them be in partnership with you, because believe me, kids are impulsive. And we, as their parents, and in some of your cases, caregivers and caseworkers, we need to teach them. We need to model the behavior you want to see in them. My kids were older before they would say to me, I mean, I did a lot of groundwork while they were younger. And so when they were older, they were in their 20s already. They said to me, Mom, can you pay attention to me? You're on your phone. As an adult, I would not realize necessarily that they wanted my attention for that purpose and time. But they came to understand, if they want my attention, they have to ask for it, because it's something that we agreed upon. And it was just the relationship that we've built up over the years from when they were young. So you want that. You want them to be able to tell you to get off your phone, and that way you can tell them to get off their phone. It's a lot of these things are a two-way street. Do you know their friends, who they're talking to online and who they're talking to in person? Do you know who they're chatting with on social media? This is important to know. When my kids were younger, I always had them give me their friends' phone numbers, names, addresses, and those of their parents. Because if, God forbid, anything ever happened to my children, I wanted to know who to call to say, hey, do you know what happened? Do you know where this is? And a lot of our kids have relationships online now, and we have to be very, very careful with that. But that's for another masterclass. But for now, do you know who your kids' friends are? You should have some of their names in your phone. Do you? So post in the chat if you know some of your kids' friends and their parents. And I don't mean that you're friends with them, just that you have their contact information. Post in the chat yes or no if you have friends' contact information. Yes. Okay. We've got good parents now. I haven't seen one no yet. But I guess that's why you guys are here. You're the learning kind of parents. You want to know stuff. All right. Oh, I lost my cursor. Here we go. We've learned a lot today. I really, really feel good about all the stuff that I've so far given you. So I want you to post in the chat your biggest takeaway from this. The one thing that you said, oh my gosh, I can implement that right away. So I want to see some positivity in the chat, and I want to see you all posting the one thing that you feel is a good takeaway, something you can implement in your family right away. Let's see. Some of you are just doing panelists, so I have to. Okay. So let's see what it is that you guys felt. So some of you learned about the new sex sites. Yeah. And that's something that you can find it in a roundabout way, maybe ask your kids about some of these things. Somebody said how to talk about posting pictures and the sex sites. Yep. And I took away tips and educational tools to provide to families I work with. Excellent, excellent. And I see someone else said the electronic parenting controls on the devices. Yes, that exists. And you can also call your Wi-Fi company and ask them how to shut off Wi-Fi at night. I know it's hard for us as parents, but it's important. So good. I'm really, really glad that you guys found these really valuable tools, because that's what I'm here for. That's what I wanted. give you from my heart to yours. I want kids to always feel safe and always have what they need. We learned about online safety, sex work sites, private Snapchat and Finsta, cyberbullying, and boundaries. Boundaries give your kids life skills. So, so, so important. Yeah, so, so important. Oh, someone else posted that she also took away how to recognize your tools for how to start conversations, such as appropriate environments and how to start conversations. Yep, conversation starters. I have something on my website too, how to, under free resources, how conversation starters. So feel free to head over to my website anytime, coachred1.com, and you can look at the free resources. And I've got a lot of fun things there, some quizzes and conversation starters. Also, I have a Facebook group called Become a Connected Parent. So if you're interested, you can join that Facebook group, and there's always more content. I go live in there and I post some really, really wonderful information in there. If you are still here, as promised, I have a bonus for you, which I'll be sending you 20 ways to inspire intrinsic motivation in teens. And just to remind you all that I do have a question and answer period at the end. So if you're still here and you have questions or you have something that I haven't addressed, please post it in the Q&A and I will get that. The Q&A is private and I'm the only one that will see it. So please post in the Q&A and I'll make sure to get those questions answered. I am going to post in the chat. Hello, I'm back. Okay, I am going to post in the chat a link to an assessment call. So let's see what we've got here. Okay, here we go. This is the link to reach out to me. So you can book a call, and you know, kids are very impulsive and we need to be there for them as their parents. Social media has normalized sex work, and I'm here to tell you that we parents aren't okay with it. For the most part, most parents are not okay with it. And we have to protect them. How do we do that? And they have access to social media and these sex sites and everything else 24/7. We have to be there to protect them. How do we regain cooperation and peace in our home? I want you to imagine this, okay? So I want you to imagine your family as you want it to be. You have empowered teenagers who follow the rules that you agreed to without being told. Imagine that that were the reality. Your family is connected. You're a connected team. They share with you everything they're doing within reason, because they still get some privacy. They don't have to tell you everything. But they share with you, they talk to you, they tell you what you're doing online so that you can know if anything is happening to them, either they're being cyberbullied or if there's something, an inappropriate conversation happening online. They stretch their muscle of critical thinking. This is hard for the underdeveloped teenage brain at this point, but they stretch that muscle of critical thinking using you as a soundboard. Your kids have life skills. Sounds nice, right? Type smile in the chat if that sounds good to you. Either post a smile or type smile in the chat if this is something. Yes, yes. Type smile if that's what you want. That is what you want. That picture of the perfect family, right? You don't have to do it alone. We all, someone put a prayer. Yeah, praying hands, hoping. We have to work at it. You know, parenting, I think in the 50s used to be so much easier. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just saying it just appears to be so much easier. Like, what was the worst thing people did back then? Like kick a ball into somebody's window? I don't know. It's so hard now because the dangers are inside your home and we have to be really, really vigilant. And we all have blind spots, things you don't see in your parenting dynamic. You know, I have a system, experience, and tools I've been working out for several years now. You have the link to the assessment call. It's just a 15-minute call, and I'm going to post it again because the reason you need to make this call to see if we're a good fit is because you feel helpless. Maybe your teen is out of control. Maybe your teen stays in their room all the time, so they're not screaming and yelling, but you never see them and they're not around for you to use any of these tools that we've got. Maybe that's a reality. Maybe your teen just doesn't talk to you about anything they do. Maybe your teen yells and fights and struggles with you, power struggle all the time. Maybe your teen is not motivated. If you have any of these scenarios, this is the reason that you need to make the assessment call. We can make a plan together. I have the link in the chat. You should all see it there, and you can schedule that call. It's a 15-minute call, and all we're going to do in that call is make a plan together to help get your family back on track. Let's see. Now I'm open to questions. Does anybody have any questions in regard to content that I've talked about or something that I didn't talk about? Does anybody have questions? You can post it in the Q&A section. You'll see it at the bottom. Let's see. Yeah, consistency is hard. To be consistent with boundaries is very, very difficult. And so somebody posted that they struggle with being consistent with boundaries, especially with a defiant child. A defiant child needs to know that they have control over something, that they need to have power over something. I share with you that I had one, and she ended up going to college and took law in undergraduate. So she didn't become a lawyer, but she took legal studies in her undergraduate, as her undergraduate degree. There is hope. Children who are defiant think in a different way. And I had to learn, and I've got these tools, and I used it in practice with my own child and with my clients, where you talk to them in a different way. Even defiant children, they think of things differently. Maybe they can't hear the word no. No, maybe you need to be creative about that. Maybe you need to change the way you talk, because in the end, they're difficult. They're very, very defiant, and they're trying to exert control, but they're doing it in the wrong way. Another thing to remember is you don't have to accept abuse from your teenagers. If the child is defiant and yelling or throwing things around the house or punching the walls, you do not have to accept that behavior. And the earlier you make it very clear that you don't accept being treated like that, the easier it'll be as they get older. So that's really, really, really important. Someone said that someone has a question, that they began their children on social media really early. So what is the right time to start your kids having access to social media? The answer to this question is as late as possible. I have some clients who have 14 and 15-year-old kids who are not allowed on social media. Look, it's not a perfect world. Do they go to their friends and see TikTok videos, or do their friends somehow text them TikTok videos or something else? Yes, they do. And these are all things that need to be dealt with. It's not like a hard line. But if the kids don't have access to it at a young age, you have the ability to share with them your thoughts, feelings, and values, and create family systems that are strong enough that when they do go on social media, they make better choices. So the answer to the question, when is a good time to start giving your kids access to social media? The answer to that question is as late as possible. There are studies that say around 13 to 15 years old, but I've seen all kinds of studies out there, honestly, that's not a hard number. If you gave your kids access to social media at 6 years old, I have a client who just came to me now. The parents are not on the same page. So they're having a really hard time, and they have a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old. And their 6 and 10-year-old already have full access to YouTube and social and TikTok videos and other things. And now they can't get it out of their hands. So they're in a lot of power struggles with their kids. So they need guidance in how to get out of power struggle and kind of pull the reins back in. It's a lot easier with a 6-year-old than a 10-year-old, a lot easier with a 10-year-old than a 16-year-old. So keep that in mind for those of you who have younger children. Make different rules, do something different, because it's worth it. It's worth the struggle to be a parent and have to set some pretty clear boundaries. So look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, am I being consistent? Am I setting boundaries with my kids? And really, really standing to those boundaries, because when you make boundaries, you have to have consequences. So that's really, really important. I see a lot of you are still here. So those of you who have booked a call, I want you to put the word call in the chat so that I know that you have booked your call with me, your 15-minute assessment call, just to see how I can help you make a plan. So I see that a lot of you are still here. If you have any other questions, then please post them in the Q&A so that I can support you in the way that you want to be supported. And if any of you want a recording of this masterclass, or if you want the picture of the 2 smiley faces, the grandparents and the school, send me your email, or you can post it in the chat, and I'll make sure that you get that tomorrow. You'll get a recording of this, and you'll get the slides so that you can review it at your own pace. If that's something that's interesting to you, then you can feel free to post it in the chat. Okay. I'm writing down one of the, although I'll have it in here, but I'm writing down the emails that are coming in. Okay. Okay. And so for those of you who booked calls, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about a plan for your families. And for those of you who haven't, feel free to join my Facebook group, Become a Connected Parent. I don't have the link handy because I wasn't planning on saying that. That was off the cuff. I just planned that at the last minute. So Become a Connected Parent is the name of the Facebook group. You can enter to join that, and you'll get lots of tips and lots of great parenting guidance from me. I'm writing down another one. Please follow me on social media, Coach Red. Check out my website at coachred1.com and join the Facebook group, Become a Connected Parent, so that we can continue the conversation for those of you who did not schedule the call. For those of you who did schedule the call, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to help you and your family make a plan for the future. And for the rest of you, have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for participating. And thank you very, very much for being the amazing caregivers and parents and grandparents that you are.